as you've heard, we are positioning ourselves to look at the future. How are we going to tackle this objective of increasing access to 15 million learners in the most difficult context in the world? How are we going to do that? We have ideas, we know how to do it, we don't quite know exactly how to measure it. We have a lot of challenges ahead of us. So what I want to do is just take a few moments to just look back a little bit, because we need to pay attention to history, but really where we all sit as a community in 2015. And all of you would remember, so around 2006 or so, the OECD DAC started putting the agenda of fragile states on the table. And no one really knew what it meant for education. We're looking at service delivery, but no one really knew how to do this. No one knew what education design, education implementation, education policy would look like in this context. And we also knew that the global community had made mistakes, never intentional, but we made mistakes that were harmful. So we were grappling with all the issues in around 2006. What we ended up doing as a global community around 2009, we got together, a few of us here, a few key institutions, we got together and created a dialogue, a full-fledged dialogue on what to do in this context. We didn't have resources, we didn't have money, we had our brains, we had ideas, we had experience, and we put all that together and started framing arguments for doing education differently, because we knew that doing education as business as usual in these environments were not giving us any impact, no results, no sustainable results, and at worst, creating problems. So when collectively we looked at a framework that was endorsed in 2013 in Paris at the high-level symposium on education in crisis and conflict-affected environments that was led by INE, UNESCO, DFID, USAID, the EU, the Japanese, the Dutch, the Germans, you name it, everybody was there. And we endorsed the principles of conflict-sensitive education so that we can all speak one language and we can have one approach that will ensure that we can have access to quality education in this context. So where do we stand now? At USAID, as the global community was shaping the policies and the tools, at USAID we're doing the same thing internally. How could we shape our programs to ensure that we had access and to quality education in these environments? So around 2006, actually, we at USAID we internally created a team that developed. I'm looking at Chris here. I think you're the only one left in that group. Chris Kapachik-Arneil at the USAID Middle East Bureau, and we designed an assessment tool called the Education and Fragility Assessment Tool. What should we be looking at in the education sector at policy level, at school level, at departmental levels to implement education in a sound and rigorous way? And that's how we started. It was a collective effort. Again, no money. We didn't have a penny. We could not even print the tool. But we did it. And we worked collectively with the global community to move the agenda forward. So 2011, go back 2 years, USAID launches its own education strategy. Oh, I have the clicker. You know it. The one that we are focusing on today is our famous Goal 3, and we're looking at increasing access, as you know. It took us a while to shape our framework, to look at the evidence, the rigorous evidence that exists, to build that evidence. We had no evidence. We knew we had to do things differently. We didn't quite know how to do it. We were, with INE and the global community, we had conducted research that looked at education as a way to mitigate conflict, the impact of conflict in education. We turned the issues around and around and around, and it was difficult for us at USAID to really really understand what we could do and how, in a way that would be sustainable, that'd be realistic, that would be measurable, and that would be forward-looking. So we now have evidence, and we developed this framework that is our evidence. We now know that if you provide safe access, physical, emotional safety in schools, then you will be able to increase the number of children who go to school, and they will stay. They will not leave a week later. They will stay. We know that if we build institutional capacity, but not all of it, there's only so much we can do, but there's one type of institutional capacity component that needs to be strengthened, and that's the management of teachers. If we don't know who these teachers are, if we don't know where they are, where they're going to go, and who they really are, we will not have teachers. If we don't have teachers, we just won't have kids, basically, right? So just selecting this component in the institutional capacity building of a government is what we see as evidence to increase access and quality. Peace building, extending peace building. Again, this is our evidence. We know that if we mitigate violence in schools, and if we try to prevent the violent attacks against education that Charles mentioned earlier, we have a chance to keep the children in school, to bring them to safe places and keep them in school. Same thing with textbooks, curriculum. We want to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes we made 10 years ago in Afghanistan when we had hatred messages in the curriculum and we were paying for it, not willingly. And finally, how do we increase access? Easier said than done, as you know. How do we do it? Easy to say, oh yeah, we'll just build schools and they'll come. We'll provide books and they will come. We'll have a nice curriculum, they will come. Well, no, unfortunately, there's no cookie cutter approach. But what we know and what our evidence shows us is that we need to look at the option of accelerating learning programs. We're getting just terrific evidence on the role that accelerated learning programs give us. Alternative education programs, just to complement what governments do in this context. And finally, addressing the issues of displaced. Not just marginalization. Marginalization is a tricky word because we think of just remote girls in the mountains of Afghanistan, but you could be a majority in a country and still be marginalized. In this sense, we need to have to keep these drivers of exclusion in check. So this is the USAID framework. Over the past 3, 4, 5 years during the strategy, we made sure that we try to coordinate and partner with as many of you as possible because we know we couldn't go at it alone. Just two major products that came out of it. One is we work with the Global Partnership for Education and the World Bank to integrate conflict and fragility sensitivity into education sector plans and analysis. We have worldwide, we keep promoting education sector planning, but no one is looking at emergencies and complex environments. So this companion guide that we worked on does just that. And of course, Dean talked about the minimum standards of education. You all know them. But as Dean said, we integrated conflict-sensitive education. So we are looking at a common approach, a common language to reach a common goal. This is a launch of 2 contracts and a grant. So it is important for you to know what we are putting in place at USAID to make sure that these things will happen. We can have goodwill, but we still need a structure. In the implementation of Goal 3, we're looking at 4 elements that you will see issued in RFAs, in RFPs, and that we firmly believe in using. One, we need to do assessments of the role that education plays in the conflict and crisis environment, to conduct cost-effectiveness analysis, 3, collect data and share data, and 4, ensuring safety, ensuring that we have safety frameworks. How do we assess? Very quickly, this is not going to be a session on assessing education in fragile states, but USAID has worked on, has produced two main tools, and here they are. One is a rapid needs assessment guide. As you know, we cannot do the needs assessment that we used to do years ago. Now everything has to be rapid, and we need to be flexible, and that's what Andrew talked about. We need to be flexible, we need to be adaptive, and this rapid assessment guide is aimed just at that. The checklist for conflict sensitivity in education programs adopts the same approach. Are we sure that we're not doing harm? Are we sure that we're addressing issues of ethnicity, religion, and providing access to kids in education? Are we sure we're not excluding children just on the basis of their identity? Are we sure, as USAID missions, that we are taking into consideration all the variables that can prevent access from increasing and that will prevent attacks against education, and so on and so forth? So these are the tools that we have put together. Safety. This is still an area that we're learning. We're trying to position ourselves to ensure that whatever we do at USAID, we have to be good stewards of our US government resources. And we need to have these children and youth in safe places. What do we do about safety? It is just not physical safety, but it's social, emotional safety. It is well-being and it is protection. Evidence has shown that children who are not protected, children who are afraid, children who have witnessed atrocity just cannot learn. They just cannot learn, and we all understand that. So what enabling environment can we put in place, not only in the schools, but in the systems, in the education system, to guarantee that it will be a safe space? How do we measure that? It's going to be one of the challenges that the ECCN will tackle. We know here and there what safety means, but what does it really mean in the context of systemic education? There are different ways of measuring it. Again, the ECCN and all of you here will participate in tackling this issue. Cost effectiveness. We want to ensure that we know the cost of doing business in these environments. They're the most expensive environments in the world. It is very costly to do education in these environments. How much does it really cost? And each time we are going to design and implement a program, we will make sure that we integrate a cost-effectiveness study. The ECCN has already embarked on laying the foundations for that to better understand the cost of doing education. Data. Andrew talked about data quite a bit. Charles talked about data. Dean talked about monitoring. We're all in this together. We're learning. We're still learning what the best indicators are. We're not sure yet, but we're working on it. But our role here is to work together. This is our opportunity to share. All the projects collect an amazing wealth of data. In every country that I go to, there's graduate schools would be just so happy to just get 1/10 of the data that is collected by our implementing partners. But it's difficult to share it because we have contractual issues, because we have boundaries, and we need to learn how to address them. There are two things that we ask you to do. One is going to be to share the data, whether it's quantitative or qualitative data from the lessons learned from your projects, with the community of practice. Because we will take the data and we will turn it into policy briefs. We will turn it into better qualitative and quantitative information that will push our agenda forward to increase access to quality education in these countries. Two, quantitative data is being turned into this data collection and analysis mechanism that we call SART. SART is the mechanism that is used by USAID to monitor the progress made on our strategy and our results. It is key to our survival. If we don't know what results we're getting, we will just not be able to sustain our own existence, literally, as an education sector at USAID. So the rigor of the quality of the data collection, and importantly, the sharing of that information is key to us. All of that will be integrated in RFAs, RFPs. It is already in motion, and we will learn as we go to make it even more effective. Finally, we're looking forward, and they'll be looking at more research and more tools. But we want research and tools to be applicable to the reality that we live. The last thing I want to see is just shelves full of tools that are never used. We have issued a guidance note that looks at literacy in conflict and crisis-affected countries. So how do we teach how to read in these countries? That's just one example. And the other one is natural disasters. We know we're going to have to deal with more natural disasters in the years to come. Are we ready for it? So we challenge our community of practice to also tackle these issues. So this is our agenda for the next 5 years. The one thing that we have learned is we just cannot do it alone. That is very clear. So please, whenever you can, take off your institutional hats, put on your technical hats. You all here because you have a passion for this work. I know it. You go to the most dangerous places in the world and you keep going back. And there's a reason for it. So this is the basis and the foundation of our community of practice. It's this passion and this need to do things better, more efficiently, and that will help us at USAID achieve this goal of increasing access to quality education. So we're really here to break the ice between contracts, to break the ice between superficial boundaries. So together in the next 5 years, we will share, we will exchange, we will teach each other, we will learn from each other, and we will serve the youth and the children in the most vulnerable corners of the world. So today we will spend the day making this a reality. We just want to make sure that the results of this community of practice and the contract that will be implementing the work that we've been talking about is compelling, is rewarding, and we have a team at USAID that supports you and that will guide you, but we will be guided by you. So I want to present our small team here, our small Goal 3 team. Nina Papadopoulos, do you want to stand up? Devin McLaurin. And me, and this is the Goal 3 team. But we are very lucky to have an extended team. We have our communication director who works with us. We have, and that's Laura Lartigue and Aaron Rossi, who are somewhere in the room. There they are, please, yeah. And Aaron, is Aaron still here? There he is, way up there. We have Ben Sola, who's not here right now. He's defending our existence right now at USAID, but he's our education evaluation expert, and he's the one who is counting the number of kids who are going into school in Goal 3 countries. We have Christine Beggs, who's not here today, but who's working with us on impact evaluations, monitoring evaluation in Goal 3 countries. And we have our colleagues Rachel Blum and Claire Inatoski, who are helping us looking at issues of youth in these environments. We have regional bureaus who are present here. We work in collaboration with each other all the time, and we're glad you're here. And we have a deputy director of our office and the head of basic education. It's Dwayne Lee. Please, Dwayne, stand up. And Dwayne's last post was Afghanistan, so he knows all about education, conflict, and duck and cover. So this brings a close to the official launching of this contract. This is 5 years of my life. So I am delighted, thrilled. We planted the seeds 5 years ago, and here they are. The flowers are blooming today. So thank you. Before we go on the coffee break, we need you to fill out a form, which is a knowledge exchange form. I don't have it here, but what it is, it's a quick tool that where you can just say what you can learn, what you would like to learn, and what you can teach, and what you can share. And please fill out, there are 2 sheets, thank you, there are 2 of them. Fill out both. The second one will be yours. The first one will be ours. And just leave it on your chair. So before you go on coffee, please do that. And after that, you are free to go on the coffee break. Thank you.